What is up, you guys, and welcome to the 98 English course. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. And now that you guys have finished the 97 English course, we're now going to be moving on to 98. And the goal with this course is obviously to start advancing up a bit in the English language. I know you guys had a pretty rough time with the 97 English course, but I think it has prepared us well for this course right here. So without any further ado, let's hop into our first unit of this course right here, Unit 1, Education. Okay, now you guys know the drill from the previous course. We obviously start with the key vocabulary, and then we move on with the lessons in perfect order as same as the book. Okay, so key vocabulary, let's hop right in. Art, assignment, business studies, communicating, compulsory, diagram, draw, evaluating, exercise, experiment, explain, flowchart, geography, history, IT, keyboard skills, knowledge, literature, mathematics, music, nursery school, photograph, physical education, pie chart, prepare, primary school, psychology, religious studies, science, secondary school, skill, subject, school, text, tutorial. Okay, simple stuff. You can always rewind to better that pronunciation. Now let's hop into lesson 1, listening. Okay, so here we have a few pictures obviously related to education and certain subjects. Here we have a flow chart, by the way. This is a flow chart. This is a bar chart. Obviously this is going to be a picture talking about history. Here we have some equations for mathematics. And we have a rainbow. And finally we have a sort of a small world map. Okay, so let's hop into exercise A, listen and point.
Unit 1, Education. Lesson 1, Listening. Exercise A. Listen and point.
Mathematics,
History,
geography,
IT,
business studies,
science,
diagram,
flowchart,
bar chart,
map,
photograph.
painting,
What time's business studies?
Do you have your science book with you?
We're doing the 16th century in history at the moment.
Where's my geography book?
Do we have mathematics today?
What did we do in IT last lesson?
I don't understand this diagram.
What does the bar chart show?
Who is this in the painting?
Do you have a better map?
Look at the photograph of a rainbow.
What does this shape mean in the flowchart?
Okay, so the audio basically wanted us to listen and point to different pictures, and obviously they were not just using the names for the pictures, but rather different subjects and basically hiding their meanings behind sentences, if you know what I mean. So now we're going to listen to it one more time, but I will be pausing it just a bit, as well as probably pointing towards the correct picture. Okay?
Lesson 1. Listen and point.
Mathematics,
History,
geography,
IT,
business studies,
science,
Okay, and when he says science here, there can be a lot of different meanings for science. So we know that when we're talking about science, we're probably talking about physics, chemistry, we're talking about mathematics, or mathematics is not really science, it's just kind of the mother of science. So we have physics, chemistry, biology, okay? So if I'm talking about science, the closest I'll be to science is probably mathematics, okay? But science can be a general term until people kind of grow a little bit older and choose a field in science itself.
Diagram.
Obviously, a diagram can be any of the pictures here, okay?
Flowchart.
Okay, what is a flowchart exactly? This is a flowchart right here. Different shapes can have different meanings, okay? And this is how a flowchart usually goes. Be aware, this is a bar chart, okay? So a flowchart is a lot different than it has so many differences compared to a bar chart or a pie chart, for example. So this is a flowchart right here, and we'll talk about this more in the coming exercises. But for now, just know that this is a flowchart right here. This is kind of how it goes, okay?
Bar chart.
Okay, so here, this is a bar chart. As you can see, bar as in the bars that you can see, similar to a bar of chocolate. And we usually have numbers here, obviously regarding either bottles, years. It depends really on what you're studying and what you're talking about. Okay, and here we could have either countries, cities, supplied goods, basically anything as well. So I'm guessing since this is going to be about business, that is why we're talking about Coca-Cola sales in 2000, and we have billion bottles, and obviously we have different countries and how much bottles were sold in said countries in the year 2000.
Map.
Obviously a map, this is a map right here, a map that shows us Brazil and other countries around it, more like South America. Okay, so that's it. Let's move on.
Photograph.
We have a photograph. This can be considered a photograph. This can also be a photograph / painting. This is more of a painting though, okay?
Painting.
Alright, here we go. So this probably a photograph, and this is a painting right here, okay?
What time's business studies?
Okay, so now we're just talking about business. So what time is business studies? As you can see, he's kind of trying to give us clues about what he's talking about, but he doesn't say it out loud. So what time is business studies? Obviously, it's this right here. We're talking about business, or as in the word or the subject, business itself, okay?
Do you have your science book with you?
Do you have your science book with you? So science book can mean obviously like a math book, for example, that has equations, okay? Something of that nature, or a physics book, for example, or a chemistry book.
We're doing the 16th century in history at the moment.
Right, 16th century in history at the moment. Obviously, this fellow right here, I think this is 16th or 15th century. So as you can see, the painting is quite old. The way he's dressed up as well shows that this is a really old painting.
Where's my geography book?
Where is my geography book? Obviously, geography as a subject, we'll talk a lot about maps and where countries are. So this map right here, geography.
Do we have mathematics today?
Do we have mathematics today? Okay, so obviously this picture number 3 right here, because we have different mathematical equations.
What did we do in IT last lesson?
What did we do in IT last lesson? Okay, so here, when we're talking about IT, we're probably talking about this flow chart right here. Alright, you guys?
I don't understand this diagram.
I don't understand this diagram. So diagram will probably either be this right here as a number 3 for mathematics, okay, or the Coca-Cola bar chart right here. Okay, so can have two different meanings.
What does the bar chart show?
Okay, so since he said the bar chart right after, I'm probably guessing diagram as in the mathematics one right here, okay? And obviously bar chart, this is the bar chart right here, okay, you guys? So whenever you see a bars in a chart, it's called a bar chart. Pretty obvious, really simple.
Who is this in the painting?
who is this in the painting, indicating that a person is in said painting. So obviously we'll have this right here, number 4.
Do you have a better map?
Do you have a better map? Here we go. Map as well, geography again.
The photograph of a rainbow.
Better photograph of a rainbow. We can see the rainbow right here, so listen and point, number 5.
What does this shape mean in the flowchart?
Right, we talked and we said that this is a flow chart right here, and he said, what does this shape mean? So obviously he didn't specify which shape exactly, so we can just pick any shape basically. So here we have this shape right here, this diamond shape. We have a rectangle. We can have sort of weird rectangular shape. Okay. And yeah, that's it. Now let's move on to exercise C here. Listen and complete the sentences. Okay, so this will be interesting. Give me a second. Okay. Let's give it a listen the first time. Okay.
2. Exercise C. Listen and complete the sentences.
Can you get out your IT books? Page 23. Look at the flowchart. This is a very simple flowchart. It is about travelling to university.
Okay. So here we have an example of what she just said. So she or he in the audio, okay, are going to be saying sentences, okay, and there's just that one important word that are going to be, we're going to have a couple seconds of a pause, and we're going to have to say these words, okay? So I'm not going to say it the first time, but I will play it again, and then I'll say it, okay, guys? So try your best to just take a quick look at the photos, either from your book or from the screen, and then just try your best to, you know, find and say the word out loud before she does or he does, okay?
Okay. Do you have the diagram? In maths today, we're going to look at this diagram. It's very famous. It's about finding the area of a triangle.
Right. History. Has anyone heard of Henry VIII? He was King of England 500 years ago, in the 16th century.
What are we doing in business studies at the moment? Anybody? No? Well, we're looking at famous companies. This week, we are talking about Coca-Cola. Look at the bar chart. Here, we can see the sales of Coca-Cola worldwide in 2000. For example, sales in North America were a little more than 5 billion bottles. In Latin America, they were a little more than 4 billion bottles.
OK. In geography today, we're looking at a new country, Brazil. First, you need to turn to the map. It's on page 45. Brazil is in green on this map. As you can see, Brazil is an enormous country. It takes up half of the continent. That is half of South America.
Today, we're going to talk about colours. In your books, you have a photograph of a rainbow. Look at the photograph. We see this effect all the time, but can you explain it? Why do we see all the colours of the rainbow sometimes? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
Alright, pretty simple stuff. I hope you're able to get the words. Now let's play it one more time, but this time I'll be saying the words quickly as we go.
2.
T-book. The float. Can you get out your IT books? Page 23. Look at the flowchart. This is a very simple flowchart. It is about travelling to
University.
university.
OK. Do you have the diagram? In maths today, we're going to look at this diagram. It's very famous. It's about finding the area of a
Triangle.
triangle.
Right. History. Has anyone heard of Henry VIII? He was King of England 500 years ago.
Okay, so 500 years ago, obviously we're talking about history now because that is something that happened a really long time ago.
In the 16th...
And the 16th, obviously we're going to be using the word century here, okay? Because if you obviously check, you can find that 500 years ago was the 16th century.
Century.
What are we doing in business studies at the moment? Anybody? No? Well, we're looking at famous companies. This week, we are talking about Coca-Cola. Look at the bar chart. Here, we can see the sales of Coca-Cola worldwide in 2000. For example, sales in North America were a little more than 5 billion bottles. In Latin America, they were a little more than 4 billion bottles.
So obviously, in this bar chart right here, we were talking about the Coca-Cola bottles sold in the year 2000, okay? And that is why I said bottles.
OK, in geography today, we're looking at a new country, Brazil. First, you need to turn to the map.
Okay, so here we have the map.
It's on page 45. Brazil is in green on this map.
Okay, so Brazil is in green. Always, you guys, when you hear when you're hearing audio or hearing someone speak in general, always try to listen to every piece of information and not just whatever you find relevant, okay? Try when someone's talking to you, or especially when you're in an exam and listening to an audio, you might only have one try, so always try and focus as much as you can and try and get as much information as possible, okay?
As you can see, Brazil is an enormous country. It takes up half of the continent. That is half of South
America, okay? That is just simple knowledge. Brazil takes up half of South America.
America.
Today, we're going to talk about colours. In your books, you have a photograph of a rainbow. Look at the photograph. We see this effect all the time, but can you explain it? Why do we see all the colours of the rainbow sometimes? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and...
Okay, so just the fact, these are obviously simple information, but we have 7 colors in a rainbow, and if you don't know them, that's totally fine, by the way. But you could kind of see all of them, but not really. So the last color will be violet. Okay, I just know this from middle school, so it's okay. So last color will be violet.
Violet.
All right, easy stuff. Now let's move on, you guys. Okay, so here we have some words, obviously again related to different subjects. So here we have John F. Kennedy, I think this was the president of the United States, I think in the 1960s. Don't quote me on that one, we'll find out soon. Then we have Christopher Columbus, the Aztecs, 1775, 1815, 1914 to 1918, obviously these are history dates. Italy, Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro, the Moon, Antarctic, the Sahara, and here we have I think this is a triangle formula in mathematics, and this is a chemistry formula if I am correct. Okay, carbon and oxygen, 2 molecules of oxygen give us CO2, carbon dioxide. And this is, I think this is also a mathematics formula as well, and this is a physics formula. And fun fact, I think this is the formula that Einstein made that after he died we were able to use or I'm not too sure if he died actually before we were able to create nuclear bombs. So this right here is basically the equation that messed the whole world up basically. Okay, so exercise D. What are we going to do here? You're going to hear the first part of a lecture about learning. Okay, and actually before we do that, well, we're going to talk about this skills check here. So before a lecture, we want to thank you guys. I think I talked about this as well in the previous course, okay? So when talking or when hearing a lecturer speak or talk about a lecture, you always want to have that guessing game inside your head, but don't do it too much that you kind of forget or just drift away mentally from what the lecturer is trying to say. So just keep a close middle line, middle ground, okay? You ask yourself, what is the lecturer going to talk about? Obviously, some keywords here and there will help you identify, okay? And during the lecture itself, but don't overdo this right here, because this can cause problems. So just do it, but like I said before, find some middle ground. So what is the lecturer going to say next, for example? Okay, you can always as well say a word or phrase in your head if that's what you do, but most people don't. It's totally fine, but just keep your head working, okay? Try not to go too stale when a lecturer is speaking or talking, okay? Now let's talk. We're gonna hear the first part of the lecture right here. Okay, so here we have, look at the items below and what sort of information is in each box. Okay, so we have 3 different boxes and different information obviously in each box. Now we're gonna listen to the introduction to the lecture and check your ideas. Okay, and then 2, we're going to answer these questions. So what do we call all the items in the boxes below? I kind of already did a little bit of these, but we'll do the rest after the audio. And what else do children learn at school nowadays in your country? We'll leave that after we're done. Here we go.
3. Exercise D1. Listen to the introduction to the lecture and check your ideas.
Today, I'm going to talk about learning. In particular, I'm going to look at learning at school. Firstly, what do students learn at school? I'm going to talk about the sort of information they learn. Secondly, why do they learn those items? I'm going to discuss the reasons for different items. OK, so first, what do students learn at school? Well, of course, they have subjects, maths, history, geography and science. But what sort of information do they learn in each subject? What knowledge do they learn? Firstly, they learn names and dates. For example, the names of famous people like John F. Kennedy, the President of the United States in the 1960s. Secondly, they learn about places. Countries like Italy, continents like Africa and so on. Finally, they learn important formulas, like the Pythagoras formula for right-angled triangles. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So students all over the world learn names and dates. They learn about places, and they learn famous formulas. We call this knowledge. In the past, students only learnt knowledge at school. Of course, students must also understand. So understanding is also an important part of school life. But nowadays, students in many countries are also learning skills. What skills are you learning at the moment?
Alright, that was actually a really good question towards the end of the audio there. So obviously all of us are always trying to improve our skills, because I really do believe that skills are literally the only thing that can, skills and natural talent are the 2 things that can really help you move forward in life. And not a lot of people have, you know, the kind of natural talent that makes you a multi-millionaire. Not everybody can rap and make so much money off it, if you know what I mean. So a lot of people go to the safe route, and that is building your skills when you're young so that you're able to use them efficiently when you grow older. So in the first box here we have John F. Kennedy and Christopher Columbus, the Aztecs, and some dates here. So in the first box, we're obviously talking about the subject history, okay? And in the second subject, we have different country names. So Italy, Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro, obviously that's a mountain, the moon. So geography, you guys. And finally, in the last box, we have equations for different science subjects. So this as a whole will be named science, basically. But if we want to get a little more specific, we can say mathematics, chemistry, physics, mathematics again, and finally physics again. Okay? Now, let me actually get back to the that last question that was in the audio. And now I want you guys to pause the video a little bit and talk to each other. Just genuinely talk about your skills and what do you want to have as skills in your back pocket. Not necessarily, to help you in the future, but just skills that you would genuinely like to have, or just goals that you're working towards every single day that require certain skills. Okay? So, B, what else do children learn at school nowadays in your country? And I'm guessing simple question regarding different subjects. So what else do children learn at school nowadays in your country? Something that I really like about schools in my country is obviously the time management. So you have very strict time management, and this teaches young children to basically understand the importance of having time management on your side. Yes, it might be annoying. Yes, it can have some pretty strict rules when it comes to time management in my country anyway, or for school. However, I think that it pays off greatly when kids grow older and realize that they can have time on their side, because every adult knows that one of the biggest problems with society nowadays is that we consume time like it's nothing. Or not five, no, a whole day passes by and you think that it was like 2 to 3 hours. People think that after they come home from work, it's basically over, while the day is still, there are still so many hours. 24 hours are a lot of hours, guys. You gotta understand that. And actually, one more thing. Obviously, I'm not strictly talking about subjects here. I'm talking about things that can really benefit kids and young teenagers to be able to survive in life when they grow older and just make their life a little bit easier. So obviously, the thing about obviously not having or not leaving school early, or not skipping school or skipping classes, because the reason schools have such severe punishment, and I personally used to hate it. I thought that going to school 5 days a week was pretty annoying, but I mean, it is what it is, and it teaches kids that, there are consequences whenever you stop or skip class or skip school, because when you grow older and your life depends on it, you literally pay your bills by going to your job and doing your job like you're supposed to. So this teaches kids to at least be a little bit more responsible. Okay? So pretty good audio right there. Now let's move on. Here we have listen to the second part of the lecture. Okay, so we have the second part of the same lecture. Before I do that, let me just go to skills check 2 here. Here we have recognizing change of topics. Okay, so you guys will see that if you have kind of a big topic, a lecturer is gonna change topics a lot throughout him explaining the topic and talking about it. So for example, lecturers talk about different topics during the lecture, right? And for you as a student, or a listener, I should say, you gotta recognize that change of topic, because if you don't, you can get lost really easily, right? So that's why I told you guys earlier that you gotta always listen for information, even if it doesn't benefit you, because you don't know when that lecturer is gonna make a switch or go off topic for a second, like I do sometimes personally. And I'll admit it teaches you guys to be alert, all the time. Okay, you can't really just be, oh, he's gonna do this exercise, I already did it, I'm not gonna listen to it. No, you gotta listen, because there are some things that you might not have known. Okay, so when listening, always look out for numbers. It's just like reading, you guys. So like reading. Listen for numbers. Okay, numbers indicate that either a change of topic is coming up or some really valuable information are about to be said. And here we have listen for words that indicate a change of topic, such as next, finally, lastly, then. Okay, so here we have simple examples, and this is not kind of the change of topic I was really talking about, but it does give a certain indication. So we have, so first, what do children learn at school? And obviously he's going to continue with an answer, and then we have, secondly, they learn names and dates. We teach handwriting and then keyboard skills. Finally, we teach children to communicate. You see now, he kind of changed topics a little bit, but on a larger scale, if you're sitting for like 2 hours or so with a lecturer, just know that he's going to be switching up the topics quite a lot. And he might even go off topic a little bit to explain certain examples in more detail. Now let's listen to the second part of the lecture. Here we go.
4. Exercise E. Listen.
And here the lecturer, excuse me for pausing it, we're going to be a lecturer is going to be talking about these key skills for life, and I do agree that these skills right here are key for a good and simple life, okay, and these skills help immensely. So we're going to write the order down for these skills right here. So I'll let it play the first time, you guys try to solve it, and I'll play it the second time, and I'll solve it then.
Number the items in the order that the lecturer mentions them.
So, nowadays, students learn knowledge and skills at school. The skills help them in the real world. Firstly, children learn to read. Then they learn to write. Handwriting is still important, but nowadays, keyboard skills are more important in many cases. So secondly, we teach handwriting and then keyboard skills. As I said, we teach young children to read and to understand. But later, we teach them to read and evaluate. What does that mean? It means to think about information and ask the question, is this true? There is a lot of information on the internet, but some of the information is not true. We must teach students to evaluate information. So that's the fourth skill, evaluating information. People must not believe everything they read. Finally, we teach students to communicate. Students need to give their ideas and to talk about themselves. They need to communicate in speech and in writing. Oh, I almost forgot. Working with other students. This is very important. Students must learn to work with other students and with adults. So, that's the last skill.
Alright, now I'm going to play that one more time, and I'll be labeling the skills as we go, or numbering, I should say.
4. Lecturer mentioned.
So, nowadays, students learn knowledge and skills at school. The skills help them in the real world. Firstly, children learn to read. Then they learn to write. Handwriting is still important, but nowadays, keyboard skills are more important in many cases. So secondly, we teach handwriting and then keyboard skills. As I said, we teach young children to read and to understand. But later, we teach them to read and evaluate. What does that mean? It means to think about information and ask the question, is this true? There is a lot of information on the internet, but some of the information is not true. We must teach students to evaluate information. So that's the fourth skill, evaluating information. People must not believe everything they read. Finally, we teach students to communicate. Students need to give their ideas and to talk about themselves. They need to communicate in speech and in writing. Oh, I almost forgot. Working with other students. This is very important. Students must learn to work with other students and with adults. So, that's the last skill.
Alright, pretty simple stuff, you guys. Now let's move on. Here we have, look at the skills in table 1, okay? So, which skills are you good at? Okay, so I'm going to discard this for a second. So, here, what I want you guys to do is actually pause the video and talk to yourself or a classmate. What skills are you good at? What do you think you're good at? Okay? And which skills, I'm not going to say which skills are you bad at, because I think that's a really pessimistic way of looking at it, but rather, which skills are you trying to improve yourself on? Okay, so for example, if I'm going to talk about myself here, and obviously you can be completely honest here, we don't want to lie to ourselves, okay? It's okay to be bad at something and want to improve at it, okay? So which skills are you good at? I consider myself a good speaker, right? I consider myself a good editor when it comes to editing simple photos and simple videos, right? Now, which skills am I personally bad at? I personally am a big fan of motion graphics, but I'm not the best at it. Obviously, I'm trying to still learn, but I'm still not the best at it, like at all. I'm still trying my best, going one step at a time, and that's how you get better. One more thing that I'm not good at, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I mean, we all have things that we want to improve on, is writing. Writing is probably my weakest point in my English. So, and it's not even, I'm not talking about, for example, spelling and stuff, it's just the way that you write and the way you express your thoughts into words. I'm struggling a little bit with that, but obviously practice makes perfect, you guys, okay? Now, I'd like for you to pause the video and do the same, okay? Now, here we have skills check 3, and this is the final skills check before we move on to speaking. Here we have identifying multi-syllable words. So in English, words with 2 or more syllables have one strong sound. And here, let's actually just straight up look at the examples here. This is really simple. So, first syllable, this is words with a first syllable, and these are words with a second syllable, okay? Notice the difference. So, formula, triangle, keyboard, knowledge. Pretty simple, right? Now notice this one strong sound here when we have 2 syllables. Communicating, evaluating, important. You see that? Discuss. Okay, it has that one strong sound that we're talking about. 2 syllables, and you guys see communicating, evaluating, important, discuss. While here we just say formula, triangle, keyboard, and knowledge. You guys get the idea? Simple stuff, you guys. This was lesson 1, listening. Now let's move on to speaking. Alright, you guys, lesson 2, speaking. Let's hop right in. So here we have a couple photos, actually 12 photos to be exact, and these photos actually represent different school subjects, okay? So we're gonna have a guessing game here, okay? So pause the video right now, write each subject next to each picture, okay? And then I'm gonna guess, and all of us are gonna find our answers in the audio below, okay? So number 1 is, this is a map right here, so obviously geography, okay? Number 2 is history. Number 3, I think these are piano notes, so number 3 is music. Okay, 4, obviously mathematics. 5, chemistry or science, both are correct. 6, this guy or this little kid right here is playing soccer or football, so we're going to say physical education. Number 7, we have religious studies. Number 8, we have history. Number 9, we have IT, obviously the flow chart. You guys remember, we talked about this in the previous lesson. Number 10 is art. Number 11 is business studies. And finally, number 12 is psychology, dealing with different parts of the brain and how to manipulate emotions and such. That is psychology, you guys. Okay? Now, let's check our answers here. Let this audio open. Alright, let's check it out.
5. Lesson 2. Speaking. Exercise A2. Listen and check.
1,
Geography,
2,
history,
3,
music,
4,
mathematics,
5,
science,
6,
physical education,
7,
religious studies,
8,
literature,
9,
IT,
10,
art,
11,
business studies,
12,
psychology.
Okay, pretty simple stuff. Easy stuff, you guys. Now let's move on. Here we have we're going to be listening to some words and what's the subject. Okay, so this is really simple. We don't really need to do anything specific. So you're going to hear a word, and then a couple seconds later, you're going to hear the subject that's related to that word. So think of it as the exact same exercise above, but instead of using pictures, we're now going to be using words. Okay? So let's listen to this.
6. Exercise B. Listen to some words. What's the subject?
Country. Geography. Computer. IT. Dates. History. Football. Physical education. Landscape. Art. God. Religious studies. Novel. Literature. Island. Geography. King. History. Bible. Religious studies. Song. Music. Program. IT. Laboratory. Science. Map. Geography. Numbers. Mathematics. Customer. Business studies. Painting. Art. Tennis. Physical education. Poem. Literature. Printer. IT. Singer. Music. Continent. Geography. Triangle. Mathematics. Company. Business studies.
Alright, pretty self-explanatory stuff right there. Now let's move on. Here we have exercise C. Look at the conversation. So we're going to be listening to a conversation, okay? And then after this conversation, you guys, what I want you to do is pause the video for a little bit, grab your classmate or your friend or basically anybody around you, okay? And start a similar conversation as this one right here, okay? And obviously always give true information. Let's go.
7. Exercise C1. Listen to the conversation.
Are you at school or university?
I'm at school. I'm in year 12.
What are you studying?
I'm doing history, psychology and business studies.
Really? What are you doing in history at the moment?
We're learning to evaluate information.
What does that mean?
We read something, then we say, is this true or false?
What's your favourite subject?
I like psychology
Why?
because it is important for me. I want to be a teacher.
Alright, you guys see this conversation right here? I want you to have a really similar one, okay? So use the same topics as in what do you like, what do you don't like in terms of subjects, and what do you study, what year are you in, things of that nature right here, okay? So practice in pairs and always give true information. Right, you guys? Now let's go to exercise D here. Write the correct word in each phrase, and let me actually open this up. we have about or to. And let me give you an idea of when do we use about or to in each of these phrases. Okay? So when I say to, I'm usually talking about me about to do something, a sort of action that I have to learn or do, right? But when I say about, I'm not really going to do an action, but more of kind of understand certain information or detail about something. So let me actually give you an example here. So play the guitar right here. So learn to play the guitar. I'm going to be doing an action, and that is learning to play the guitar. Now, here, learn dash the Second World War. I'm not going to do anything about the Second World War. It's already over. However, what I can do is learn about it. You guys know? So I'm going to have some information, look into it, okay? So I'm not really going to be doing a sort of a physical action, like, for example, play the guitar or draw a graph, for example. But I can learn about graphs. So it's if I'm learning or gathering information or certain details, I'm going to use about, okay? And if I'm going to do sort of a physical action or learn something new, then I'm going to use the word to, okay? And this will come naturally as you progress in English. Okay, so now let's listen. Or actually, before we do that, let's actually try and write them down, and then we'll listen and check our answers together, okay? So type, we're going to say to type, okay? So I'm going to learn to type. Graphs, I'm not going to do anything specific like draw a graph, so graphs. So learn about graphs, okay? Draw a graph, however, that's a different story. Now I'm going to use to, okay? And the reason for that is learn to draw a graph. I'm going to learn to do something, okay? Learn to play the guitar. When I use to, I'm going to be doing an action that requires me to learn something new. Learn about the Second World War, okay? Now I'm going to learn about something here, okay? Learn to write a business letter, okay? Learn about Brazil. I mean, I'm not going to do anything about Brazil. It's not like I'm going to change the whole country. I'm not the president. So I'm just going to learn about Brazil. Simple information or certain details. Learn dash find countries on a map. And this is something I need to learn how to do personally. Learn to find countries on a map. Okay, now I'm kind of getting somewhere with a physical action. So I actually got to learn to find countries on a map. Learn to use the internet safely. Now I'm already using the internet, we all do, but learning to use the internet safely. Learn, I cannot say to spreadsheets here, you guys, because spreadsheets are already there. If I said learn dash to write a spreadsheet, then I can use to, okay, because I'm actually going to write a spreadsheet. However, just spreadsheets as in plural, learn about spreadsheets. Okay, I'm just going to learn about them, learn some new information, how they're made, how do I write one. Alright, now let's listen and check our answers below.
9. Exercise D2. Listen and check.
Learn to type. Learn about graphs. Learn to draw a graph. Learn to play the guitar. Learn about the Second World War. Learn to write a business letter. Learn about Brazil. Learn to find countries on a map. Learn to use the internet safely. Learn about spreadsheets.
Alright, all of these are correct. I hope you guys were able to understand to and about, and it will come naturally over time as you progress. Okay, now let's move on. Here we have make true sentences about subjects at school, and this is a really simple exercise, you guys. You guys should do this on your own. This will obviously always be up to you because different people like different subjects, so use words from the box. So we're going to use different words from the box here to make sentence or make true sentences, I should say, about subjects at school. Okay, so what I might say might be different than what you have to say. So let's all just make our own true sentences, shall we? So for example, we have interesting, boring, difficult, fun, easy, useful, important, and finally exciting. So if I'm gonna rate my subjects at school, I'll probably say IT is interesting. History is interesting, that's also correct. I could say mathematics is boring, okay, or math is boring, right? Chemistry is difficult, right? English is fun, or business studies is fun, okay? I could say English reading is easy, okay? And I could also say, what else subjects do I think are pretty useful? I could also say IT is useful, or history is useful, so we don't make the same mistakes what people did decades ago. Important, I could say, alright, don't quote me on this, but even though I think that, you know what, actually I have the perfect one for this. I think biology is important. Learning about the human body is really important. Exciting, I could say English speaking is exciting. You see what I'm talking about, you guys? Now, do this on your own. Write your own subjects, your own experience at school, and just let's move on, okay? So now we're gonna listen to a student's talk, and actually before we do that, you guys remember giving a talk? We talked about this in the previous course, in the 97 English course. Now here, a little bit, kind of the same deal, but with a little bit more notes now. And giving a talk, remember these things, you guys. We talked about this before. I'll stress it again. You always want to make notes if you're going to give a talk, okay? Whether it's a presentation at your job, whether it's a presentation in class, in college, in school, whatever it is, you got to make notes, okay? Practice difficult words or sentences, okay? So there are always going to be words that you might find difficult to pronounce or to just basically write down, and sentences that can be too complicated. What you want to do is basically practice doing them. You guys know practice makes perfect, so practice, practice, practice until you can do it with ease. And start your talk, okay? And what I would advise you to do is, like I actually said this before, before you start your talk, a day or two before, record yourself doing the exact same talk, or stand in front of the mirror and talk. You want to put yourself in that position where you're actually talking, and start your thought process. What's your thought process going to be like in front of all those people that you're going to be talking about? And obviously, stress the important words and use good intonation, okay? Nobody is going to care what you have to say if you don't use good intonation and stress the important words of your information, okay? That's just a fact. Let's move on. Show enthusiasm and smile. Okay, if you have the best information out there, if you don't show that you genuinely care about the information or things that you're saying out there, nobody's going to care. It's as simple as that. It's simple human emotion. If you don't like it, how do you expect others to like it? Okay? So show enthusiasm and smile. For goodness sake, just smile. It's so simple, yet people always seem to forget. Smile, it makes a big difference. Don't read full sentences aloud, and this is obviously referring to your notes, okay? So obviously, you might have your notes in a paper, okay? Don't ever read full sentences from your notes aloud. It makes you look weird, it makes you look unprofessional, and it's just straight up wrong. What you can do, however, is just take a glance at your notes just to get a refresher of your memory and jump right back into your talk, okay? But don't ever read full sentences aloud. Look up from your notes, we just said that, okay? Taking a glance. Don't speak too slowly or too quickly. This is where people can mess up. It's kind of a big deal. A lot of people think that they might be too slow to the point where they're actually talking too fast, right? And some people are afraid of talking too quickly that they end up going too slowly, okay? So the idea is to find that kind of the middle ground, okay? And hence why I told you guys to record yourselves giving a talk or standing in front of the mirror, just so you can get an idea of how you're actually sounding or how you actually sound in front of people. And finally, basically end your talk in a nice formal manner. Okay? Now let's listen to a student's talk and complete the notes. Okay? Here we go. Let's listen to it together.
10. Exercise F. Listen to a student's talk.
Hello, my name's Jane Morris. I'm at university. I'm in the first year. I'm studying IT. I'm also doing business studies. At the moment in IT, we're learning about flowcharts. We're learning to draw flowcharts for simple actions. In business studies, we're learning about service industries like banking and tourism. We're learning to write a business plan for a service industry. I like IT because it is interesting. It is important for me because I want to be a computer programmer. I like business studies too because I want to start my own company. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Alright, pretty good talk. Now let's listen to it one more time. Let's listen to it one more time, okay, you guys? But this time I'll actually be pausing it quite a bit just so I can keep up with what she's saying, okay?
10. F. Listen to a student's talk.
Hello, my name's Jane Morris. I'm at university. I'm in the first year. I'm studying IT. I'm also doing business studies.
Okay, so subjects, see, she's studying IT and business. Oh, I just business studies. Okay, so subjects, IT and business studies.
At the moment in IT, we're learning about flowcharts.
Learning about flowcharts. Flowcharts, anything else?
We're learning to draw flowcharts.
Learning to draw flowcharts. Okay.
For simple actions.
Draw flowcharts for simple actions.
In business studies, we're learning about service industries.
In business studies, she's learning about service industries. I think that's what she said, right? Let me check.
Industries like banking.
Alright, so service industries. Oh, industries right here. That's how it's written. And we could just open a bracket for like examples like banking. And what else?
And tourism.
Banking and tourism. Tourism. Okay, here we go. Simple stuff.
We're learning to write a business plan.
And for business studies, we can say learning to write a business plan. Okay.
For a service industry.
For a service industry. Okay.
I like IT because it is interesting.
Why? I could say IT. Oh, IT is interesting. Okay.
It is important for me because I want to be a computer programmer.
And we could say she wants to be a computer programmer. Okay. Let's end this and start one more.
I like business studies too because I want to start my own company.
We could say she, start with she, likes business studies. Oh, I wrote that wrong. Give me a second. Here we go. Studies because she wants to start her own company. Alright, simple stuff. Let's see what else.
OK,
That's
that's it. Thank you.
Alright, pretty simple stuff, you guys. So subjects, IT and business studies, learning about flowcharts, service industries such as banking and tourism, learning to draw flowcharts for simple actions, and writing a business plan for, what is that? For a service industry. Okay. And why is she doing so? Because IT is interesting to her and she wants to be a computer programmer, and also she likes business studies because she wants to start her own company one day. Okay? Now, anything else? No, I think that's about it. So it's just as simple. You're going to give a talk. We talked about giving a talk, you guys. So before moving on to the lesson, you guys should give a talk about your education, your personal education, and how was your journey like. Okay, so make notes. All right, prepare the talk. We talked about this, you guys, and give a talk either in class or in front of your friends, anywhere basically. Right? I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright, you guys, so now moving on to lesson 3, vocabulary and pronunciation. And it looks like here we have 6 pictures of college students, basically in different places of depending on their subjects and what they study. Okay, so number 1 here, or actually let me just hop into exercise A real quick. So look at the photos of students on a university campus. Okay, so they're on the university campus. Okay, and where are the students in each photo? We can use words from the box. Okay, so you guys know that university campus, especially a big one, has a lot of facilities and places to offer for students. Okay, so it's not just a place to live, depending obviously on the university and such. So here we have the words canteen, outside, laboratory or lab, library, resource center, and park. Okay, so what do you guys think of number 1? Actually, let me open this up. Let's see if you guys can get a better view here. Here we go. Much better. So here we have the first one. Where do you guys think these girls are at? That's correct. Laboratory or lab. They're doing experiments. And number 2, where are they? That's correct. They're in the library. Okay. Number 3, this can be a little bit tricky. So it seems that they're in a cafe or a canteen sort of place. So we'll just say canteen. Number 4, obviously, they're at the park or outside. So park or / outside works as well. And 5, we can say park or outside as well. So both are correct. And finally, number 6, resource center or computer room. So both work as well. Okay, simple stuff. Now let's move on. Here we have read the sentences about the photos. Okay, complete each sentence with a verb from the box. You can use the same verb more than once. Put the verb into the correct form. Some verbs are negative. Okay, actually before we do that, let's hit the pronunciation check real quick. We have saying ing or that ing sound. So listen and practice the pronunciation of the ing form of these verbs. Okay, so here we have making, working, sending, listening, preparing, and pointing. Listen to it closely and focus on the pronunciation. Okay, you guys?
12. Pronunciation check. Listen and practice the pronunciation of the ing form of these verbs.
Making, working, sending, listening, preparing, pointing.
Okay, simple stuff. Now we're gonna do the exercise B here. We're gonna complete it, and then we're gonna go back to listen to the sentences from exercise B and practice. So basically, we're gonna complete the sentences here. I don't know, can we like check? Give me a second. I think we should be able to have it here. Okay, okay, we have it. That's good. Now, we might have to change the verb form. So for example, if it's have or send, we could say having or sending, okay? So it just depends on where it is in the sentence. So number one, she's working in the laboratory. She's dash an experiment. What do you think, you guys? She's or oh, I guess I should write it, doing an experiment. Okay, I can't say she's doing an experiment. That would be wrong. I have to say she's doing an experiment. Two students are studying in the library. They're dash books. They're reading books. Okay, so reading books. Okay, so we changed the verb from read to we just added ing. So they're reading books. Basically, something that's happening right now. Okay. 3, 2 students dash in the canteen. 2 students are sitting in the canteen. Okay, so here we have sit. We added are sitting because I can't say 2 students sitting in the canteen. I have to say 2 students are sitting. If it was 1 student, what would I say? That's correct. I would say is sitting in the canteen. So 1 student is sitting in the canteen. So because here it's plural, so we'll add the plural verb to be. So 2 students are sitting in the canteen. And then we have they, and here we have not. They aren't working. Okay, so they aren't working. Okay, I'm guessing here they're having, so probably gonna say they're having coffee. Okay, and do we have smile? Yeah, here we do. We do. We have they're smiling at the camera, so re, continuation for they, as in they are. They're smiling at the camera. Okay, you guys? Now let's go to number 4. These students dash a presentation. Are, verb to be, students plural. These students are preparing a presentation. Preparing a presentation for a tutorial. Okay? 1 student, actually give me a second, 1 student not, so isn't working, I'm guessing. We have work, so isn't working. Okay, you guys? Isn't working. He's obviously he is continuation. He's sending. Do we have sending? Give me a second. Yes, we do. We have send, so he's sending a text message. Okay? 1 girl's looking at, so obviously continuation S as well, looking at the camera. Okay? Looking at, or we could say 1 girl's looking at or 1 girl's smiling at the camera. You know, they're both correct, so I'll just go with 1 girl's looking at the camera. 2 students are working. I'll just say are working on their laptops. Maybe they're doing some research on the internet. Okay? Number 5, this student dash under a tree. Simple stuff, is sitting under a tree. And the reason I'm using verbs more than once, you guys, is because I can. Alright, so in the exercise he said that we can use the verb from the box as many times as we like, but we have to change the form, okay, to the appropriate form, basically. So this student is sitting under a tree. He's, as continuation, he's working hard on an assignment. So he's working hard on an assignment. Number 6, 2 students dash carefully to the teacher. Oh, this one's simple. Are listening carefully to the teacher. The teacher's probably explaining. Oh, what was that? I was not explaining at all. Explaining something. She's pointing at the screen. Okay? Pretty simple exercise, you guys. Now let's check our answers. But oh wow, I cannot access the audio, so this is gonna be gone. So you guys are gonna have to check your answers on your own. Okay? But I'll remember most of them. All right, let's listen.
13. Listen to the sentences from exercise B and practice.
1.
She's working in the laboratory. She's doing an experiment.
2.
2 students are studying in the library. They're reading books.
3.
2 students are sitting in the canteen. They aren't working. They're having coffee. They're smiling at the camera.
4. These students are preparing a presentation for a tutorial. One student isn't working. He's sending a text message. One girl's looking at the camera. 2 students are working on their laptops. Maybe they are doing some research on the internet. 5.
This student is sitting under a tree. He's working hard on an assignment.
6.
2 students are listening carefully to the teacher. The teacher's explaining something. She's pointing at the screen.
Alright, it seems that our answers are correct for the most part. So now let's move on. What do we have next? Okay, so here we have exercise D. Complete the conversations between 2 students. Okay, so we're gonna hear a conversation, or maybe 2 conversations between 2 students. Okay, so hi, where are you, dash. Okay, so first we're gonna have to listen to check our answers, or basically to just find our answers anyway. So here we go.
14. Exercise D1. Listen and check your answers.
Hi, where are you going?
I'm on my way to the canteen.
Great, I'm going there too. Can we talk about the presentation?
Sure, but let's have some coffee first.
Okay, let me just pause it there so I don't lose what I was gonna say. So hi, where are you? And she said going. Okay, so from go to going. B, I'm on my way to the canteen. A answers by saying great, I'm going there. And what did she say? I'm going there too. Oh, as in me as well. Can we talk about the presentation? He says sure, but let's have some coffee first. Pretty simple stuff. Now let's move on.
You're studying hard. Are you working on your assignment?
No, I'm not. I'm reading the article from the last lecture.
I read that last night. It's very interesting.
It's very difficult. Can you explain it to me?
Okay, that's it. Now let me answer it. You're studying hard. Are you working on your assignment? Okay. D, no, I'm not. I'm reading the article from the... What was that? I'm reading the art from the last lecture. Yep, from the last lecture. See, I read that last night. It's very interesting. It's very difficult. I can already tell by the exclamation mark. And you guys will notice it in a second. How I notice it. Just you'll understand what I'm saying. It's very difficult. Can you explain it to me? Okay. Now what I want you guys to notice, we're gonna hear both of these conversations again, but this time don't focus as much on the information, focus on the intonation, how people are saying their sentences, which words go up and which words go down. Okay, so think of the intonation, and sooner than you might think, you guys will be able to both look at the intonation or hear the intonation and hear the information at the same time. But for now, please focus on the intonation and try to practice. Here we go.
50. Listen again. Notice the in each.
Hi, where are you going?
I'm on my way to the canteen.
Great, I'm going there too. Can we talk about the presentation?
Sure, but let's have some coffee first.
You're studying hard. Are you working on your assignment?
No, I'm not. I'm reading the article from the last lecture.
I read that last night. It's very interesting.
It's very difficult. Can you explain it to me?
Okay, I'll just elaborate just a little bit. I hope you already got what I'm trying to tell you here, because we talked about intonations a lot in the previous course. So, just a quick review. You guys know when your voice goes up and down, that's how people either take you seriously or they don't, right? So you see when he said, it's very difficult, it shows that frustration is on his mind, right? So he says it in a way where he's not really mad, he's just kind of frustrated, okay? Can you explain it to me? Obviously asking it as a question. And she's making a statement. So she's saying, you're studying hard. I could say, for example, if I have a friend that's kind of acting happy, I can say, someone's happy today. You see, that's giving a statement like that. Using different intonation shows your intentions to the listener. Okay? Are you working on your assignment? That's a question. If I say, are you working on your assignment? That doesn't sound like a question. I gotta say it in a way that adds to the listener's kind of voice, you know what I mean? Like, are you working on your assignment? Saying it as a question, you know what I mean? No, I'm not. I'm reading the article from the last lecture. This one's pretty simple. I read that last night. It's very interesting. Okay, now she's saying that it's very interesting. She's saying something as well, okay? And again, we talked about this. It's very difficult. Can you explain it to me the way he said it? Okay? Sure, but let's have some coffee. I know I'm not doing this in order, but I'm just showing you guys just a quick review. He said sure, as in yeah, of course, no problem, but let's have some coffee first, okay? Like, he says it in a way like, I need my coffee before we do this, okay? Alright, so pretty simple stuff, you guys. Now, let's move on, okay? What do we have here? Okay, so here we have skills check 2. This is pretty important. So using the present continuous, what we just talked about, or basically what we've been talking about this whole lesson, adding basically the ing to the verbs. So we use the present continuous for actions that are happening now. I'm eating, I'm playing, I'm studying, I'm sleeping, things that I'm doing right now, you guys, okay? And for actions that are happening around the present time, okay? So basically the same thing. We have examples. He's having a cup of coffee. So he's not about to have a cup of coffee. He's having it right now at this moment. I'm working on my computer. That's actually exactly what I'm doing right now. So I'm exactly working right now on my computer. She's looking for a new job. Okay, so is she looking for a new job right now? No, that might not be the case, but it's an action that is happening around the present time. So she's looking for a new job. Hey, did your sister get a new job yet? No, she's looking for a new job. Okay? That's what it means basically when I say an action is happening around the present time. I'm reading a good book at the moment. So this has also two meanings. Either I'm reading a good book like right now, at this moment in time, or I'm reading a good book at the moment, as in I have a good book that I'm reading right now. Okay? Not right now as in this second, but I'm reading it in my free time around the present time. Okay? So two meanings. Now, I hope you got the idea. Now, let's go to exercise E. Here we have study the verbs and the nouns. This one looks pretty simple. And match the words. So, for example, do and some research and make sentences with some of the phrases. For example, I'm doing some research at the moment. Okay. I want to tell you guys something here. Here we have these verbs. I can use multiple nouns twice with a single verb. Okay? So for example, do, I can say I can't open this, so we'll have to do it orally. So do, I can say do some research. I can also say do an assignment. Okay? Do an experiment. Okay, so you see, I can use different nouns with the same verb. Here we go with explain. I could say, explain an exercise, for example. Probably explain an answer. This is really good. Explain an answer. Explain an assignment. Okay? You guys see, I'm using different nouns with different verbs multiple times. Totally normal. Okay? Give, I can say, give a presentation. Give a tutorial. Okay? Prepare, I could say, prepare a presentation. Prepare for a tutorial. Prepare for an answer. Prepare for an assignment. Prepare for an exercise. You see, I can use so many nouns with a single verb. Study. Study, I could say study a subject. Study a text. Okay? Study an answer. Okay? You guys study a presentation, but no one really studies a presentation. People prepare for it, so I wouldn't use it. Work on, I could say work on a presentation, work on an experiment. Okay, guys, I hope you got the information that you needed. This lesson was mostly focused on the present continuous here, and that's about it, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Alright, you guys, now let's move on to lesson 4, reading. And here we have skills check 1. Let's actually start here. And here we have subheadings. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with a text heading. And what is that? It's this right here. This heading that people use. And people try to make it, or authors I should say, try their best to make it seem as interesting as possible so that you actually keep on reading. It's just like a label, for example, when you buy a product, especially when it comes to food. You know, they try to trick you with all of these different ads and things that make you crave junk food and stuff like that. So this is kind of similar. Not really. You get the idea. So going back to subheadings here, sometimes headings are difficult to understand. Okay, this is actually really true. So when reading an article or a book or anything basically, a heading can seem kind of weird, which is one of the reasons it causes excitement. It causes you to want to actually read and understand what the book or article is talking about. And reading the heading on its own can be difficult, or it can sometimes be like not understandable at all. Like if I say to you, the subtle art of not caring. That's the name of a book, by the way. So like, that's just simply is gonna be, I don't understand anything. What does that mean? Okay, here we have make the most of your lessons. I can kind of understand what he means, but I don't know at all. Like, what does he mean by make the most of my lessons? I'd have to go down and start reading so I can understand the heading. Okay, so make the most of your lessons. That is the heading. And here we have look for a subheading. Sometimes, not always, sometimes this is easier to understand. Okay, so this is the subheading right here. How can you learn more in lessons? Here are 4 ideas. Okay, now this is a lot more understandable. So now he goes and he gets a little bit more specific, just a little bit. So how can you learn more in lessons? Here are 4 ideas. Okay, now this is a lot more understandable than simply saying make the most of your lessons. Sounds like the start of an ad. Okay, so sometimes this can be easier to understand, sometimes it can be just as difficult. Okay, so example, how can you learn more lessons? Here for ideas. This is what we just said. Now let's hop into exercise A here. We have what is the heading and what is the subheading and what sort of information is in the text. Okay, so buckle up because we're actually going to be reading all of this. Okay, so before we start, let's just write the heading down. So what is the heading? The heading is make, I wrote that wrong. Make the most of your lessons. Okay? Then what is the subheading? We have, let me actually go down here. How can you learn more in lessons? Okay, question mark. And then we'll say here are 4 ideas. What was that? Damn. Ideas. Okay, you guys? So, what is the heading? Make the most of your lessons. Okay, what is the subheading? How can you learn more in lessons? Here are 4 ideas. What sort of information is in the text? Predictions, facts, advice, jokes, news. Okay, we're gonna have to read this, so grab your popcorn. It's gonna be a long one. Okay. Firstly, prepare for a lesson. Before the lesson, ask a question. What am I going to learn in this lesson? Look at the next few pages in your book to get an idea. Secondly, after the lesson, write a summary of the important points. Then try to remember the summaries the next day. Ask yourself, what did I learn in the lesson on Monday? Be careful with your answer. Don't say, we did page 43 in math, or we studied the 16th century in history, or even, we learned about Brazil in geography. Those answers are not very good. They answer a different question. They answer the question, what did I study? Not, what did I learn? Study means to look at carefully, but learn means to know something new. So let's go back to the real question. What did I learn in the lesson? A good answer is a fact, or a way of doing something. For example, in history yesterday, I learned about King Henry VIII of England. He was king from 1509 to 1547. In geography last week, I learned that most Brazilian people speak Portuguese. Most Brazilians are Catholic. I also learned that the capital of Brazil is Brasilia. The population of Brasilia is around 2 million, but the biggest city in Brazil is Sao Paulo, with a population of more than 20 million. In math yesterday afternoon, I learned to calculate the area of a right-angled triangle. You multiply the base by the height, then you divide by 2. Sometimes you don't understand the information. Here's the third idea. Ask your friends to explain the information to you. If they can't tell you, ask the teacher in the next lesson. Sometimes you can't remember the information. So fourthly, look at the information again after 1 week. One final question. What did you learn from this text? Explain the advice to your partner. Right, you guys. Pretty good stuff here. So now let's go back to number 3 of exercise A. We have, what sort of information is in the text? It's actually pretty obvious it was advice. So we were not predicting anything. No facts. No jokes whatsoever. No new news. So advice it is. Okay? So advice about ways to learn more and get the most out of your lessons. So now that we read this, I think you guys can understand what the heading means now. So make the most of your lessons. Alright, now let's move on. Here we have so we're going to read the text again. Well, we just did, so we're not going to do that again. So here we have, give it a second, let it open up. What advice does it contain? Tick the advice and the text. Okay. Pretty simple stuff here. So here we have, ask lots of questions. Nah, no, they didn't say that. Ask your friends for help. Yes, they did. Ask your teacher for help. Yes, they did. Look at the information again. No, they did not say that. Don't try to understand anything. They did not say that. Learn Portuguese. Nope. Make notes during the lesson. No. Prepare for each lesson. Yes, they did. Study history. Nope. They didn't specify history. They just gave an example about it. Read the information again after 1 week. That is true, you guys. Try to remember the main points in each lesson. That is true as well. Write a summary of each lesson. That is also true. So the advice given from the text was, ask your friends for help, ask your teacher for help, prepare for each lesson, read the information again after 1 week, try to remember the main points in each lesson, and finally, write a summary of each lesson. Okay, you guys? Pretty simple stuff. Now, let's move on. Okay, so we're gonna hop into skills check 2 here, finding the main verb. Okay, so we often begin sentences with a time or place, or both. So here we have examples: yesterday, the morning, in geography, last lesson in math, okay? But what he wants us to know is look for the subject, and more importantly, look for the main verb after a comma. And you gotta know that writers, sometimes, not always, writers do not use a comma in these sentences. So you're gonna learn how to, basically you're gonna train so how you can get or find the main verb after the comma, even if it's not there, okay? So yesterday, comma, we learned, here's the main verb, learned. This morning, we learned, again, main verb. In geography, we learned, okay? And finally, last lesson in math, we learned. Learned here is the main verb, okay? Have some examples here. Last week in history, we studied the Second World War. So last week in history, we studied. This right here is the main verb. At the moment in psychology, we are reading about memory. Our reading is the main verb. So, and here is just a simple piece of advice. Find the main verb before you try to understand the sentence. Now, let's actually open exercise C here. Find and circle the main verb in each sentence below. Before the lesson, ask a question. After the lesson, write a summary of the important points. Okay, give me a second here. So before the lesson, ask a question. This right here is the main verb. Okay, number 2, after the lesson, after the comma, you guys, write a summary of the important points. Write will be the main verb. Number 3, in geography last week, I learned about Brazil. Okay, you guys? And here's the skills check 2 that we talked about. Now let's move on. What do we have here? Which kinds of words in English begin with a capital letter? Okay, let's actually take a look here. Towns and cities, yes. Rivers and lakes, yes. Mountains, yes. Nationalities, absolutely. Seas and oceans, I think all of these are correct. Seas and oceans, yes. Countries, yep. Continents, yes. Languages, tick. Names, yeah, of course. Study subjects, yes. Kings and queens, yep. Religions, yes. Days of the week, yeah. Months, yep. And finally, planets. Planets are going to have names as well, so yeah. Now, number 2 here, he wants us to write an example of each word or phrase in your notebook. Okay, so he wants examples for each words here. So you guys can do this on your own. I'm going to do it anyway. But you guys can have different answers. It's totally fine. So towns or cities, I can say Boston and Los Angeles. Rivers and lakes, I can probably say the Nile River. Mountains, I'll say Mount Everest. Nationalities, Swedish. Seas and oceans, the Red Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. Countries, Egypt. Continents, Asia. Languages, Portuguese, or if that's too tough, you can say Spanish or English or Arabic. Whatever you feel, whatever language you want to use. Names, Jason or Mike or Ahmed, whatever. Study subjects, we can say science, physics, chemistry, IT, so many options. Kings and queens, we can say King Salman, that works. Religions, Islam. Days of the week, Friday. Months, we can say December or October. And finally, planets, Mars. We will visit that planet a lot sooner than people think. Okay? That was a joke, by the way. I'm kidding. So, alright, I think we're done here, and I'll see you guys in writing and grammar. Peace out. Alright, you guys, now let's move on to lesson 5, writing and grammar. Here we have exercise A. One letter is missing from each word. What is the letter, and what do you notice about each row of words? So actually, before we do that, let's hop into the skills check 1 here. You guys remember spelling vowel sounds? We talked about this before, and basically all the letters in English, not just the vowel sounds, but we're going to be focusing on the vowel letters here. So remember, we can spell different vowel sounds with the same vowel letter. So here we have the vowels, right? And just because it's an A doesn't mean it's always going to make that A sound. Take a look. Ask, ball, day, man. Day has an A sound. Ball does not have an A sound. You see? Even though it's the same letter, but we use different vowel sounds. Okay, you guys? And this will vary obviously between different accents and such, but for the most part, you'll never hear the same sound with every word. Okay, you guys? So ball, ask, day, and man. Same thing with E here, and I, and O, and U. But actually, let's do the exercise first and pronounce them as we go. So obviously, the first row will be A, ask, ball, day, and man. And in the second row, we have E, so end, begin, write, and teacher. So as you can see the difference, end and write. In the word write, you don't even listen or you don't even pronounce the E. So it's basically silent. So end and write. You don't even pronounce one of them, but it's there. Okay? Listen, I, and find. Friend, and finally girl. And you guys can see the difference as well. Listen and find. One, the I is there, but it's not really noticeable. Listen. And the other one has I, that I sound. So I sound. Find. And in the fourth row, we have brown, morning, wrong, and go. Brown, morning, wrong. You see the different O sounds? And go. Here we have you, question, study, university, and sugar. You see the difference between university and sugar? You see, you guys? You. Once pronounced with you, as in saying, for example, formula. Formula and sugar. Big difference in the U, but it's there. Alright, you guys? Now, let's move on to exercise B here. Here we have complete this text with a suitable article. Oh, and actually, let us know what articles are before doing this. So, skills check 2. Let me open this real quick. The article, or basically an article, is a word that is used with a noun to specify the noun a little bit more. So we have examples such as a, an, and the. So let's actually hop onto skills check 2 here. The noun phrase, remember, we often need an article with a noun. Keep note, he said often and not always, okay? Big difference. So article, for example, a, I say a triangle, a person, a subject. And, I usually say an with, you guys remember we talked about a and an with vowels. So a is with non-vowels. So for example, triangle, person, subject, okay? Bread, a piece of bread, for example. But an, we use an with words that begin with vowels. So an idea, an apple, an exercise, okay? A doctor, okay? And the, I use the on its own, basically, depending on the situation. So the capital, the king, the height. Now look at this. Oh, sometimes we don't even need an article, okay? And that's why he said often and not always, you guys. But sometimes we do not need an article. So for example, in history yesterday, okay, so I said in history yesterday. I didn't say in the history yesterday. I didn't say in an history, okay? In history yesterday, and keep going. I learned about the King of England. I didn't say I learned about the King of the England. No, okay? So it just depends on the situation, you guys. I learned that most Brazilian people. I didn't say I learned that most Brazilian people. That's wrong. The biggest city is Sao Paulo. I don't say the biggest city is the Sao Paulo. Okay? Now, let's hop into the exercise. Let me actually open this. Complete this text with a suitable article. Do you need a, the, or dash, which stands for nothing in each space? So let's start with number 1. In this history yesterday, so obviously dash in history yesterday, I learned about dash again, Henry VIII of England. He was king in, what are we going to say? In the 16th century. From 1509, I'm simply going to write a dash here. We don't need to use an article. From 1509 to 1547. So we're not going to use a or the here again, okay? So 1547. In geography, so straight to the point, dash as well, I learned that most Brazilian people that I don't say or that here, so that most Brazilian people speak, straight to the point, Portuguese. Okay? I also learned that dash capital of dash Brazil, so I also learned that the capital of Brazil, so dash, is Brasilia, so dash as well, nothing. Okay, full stop. Dash population, I'm gonna say that here. The population of Brasilia, so dash as well, is around 2 million. But the biggest city in Brazil, so dash as well, is Sao Paulo, so straight to the point as well, with a population, so now we're going to use A, with a population of more, let me go down here, with a population of more than 20 million. Okay? In math yesterday afternoon, so nope, nothing. In math yesterday afternoon, I learned to find the area of a right-angled triangle. Okay? You multiply the base by the height, then you divide by 2. Alright, you guys? Pretty simple stuff. Let's move on. Okay, here we have exercise C, and I'm sorry I can't really open it so I can do it with you guys, so we're just going to do it orally. Here we have triangles studied in we, okay? So number the gray boxes in order, and where can you add the green boxes, okay? So here we have triangles studied in we. So simple enough, we, obviously, number 1, we studied triangles. So basically it's the opposite. 1, 2, 3. We studied triangles. Now, how can we add these two green boxes to the mix? And look, we have different possible patterns. It's not just one said and done. Okay, so I can say, in math last week we studied triangles. Okay, I can say it like that. I can also say, last week in math we studied triangles. I can also say, we studied triangles in math last week. Or I can also say, we studied triangles last week in math. Okay, you guys? So not just one fixed pattern, but multiple possibilities. Okay? Now let's move on here. Let's go to exercise E. Look at table 1. What do we use this pattern? Tick one or more situations. Okay, so obviously here I think he's going to be talking about the present continuous. Yep, that's exactly what he's talking about. Okay, so here we have I am not negative reading a novel about France. I'm not writing a letter. He is not writing a letter. She's not, or she isn't, waiting in her office. We are learning about Brazil now. So basically, present continuous. So, guys, we talked about this in the previous lessons in this unit. What do we use the present continuous for exactly? Like, we know what it does, but what do we use it for? That's correct. We use it to talk about actions at the moment. And what do we use it for as well? We use it for one more thing. Just take a look. To talk about past events? No, not true. To talk about habits? Nope. That's correct. To talk about actions around now, okay? I can say, he's looking for a job. He's not exactly looking for a job at this moment in time, but he's looking for a job around this time. Okay, you guys? So, pretty simple stuff. To talk about actions at the moment, to talk about actions around now, are the situations used when we're using the present continuous. Now, let's move to exercise F. Look at table 2 and compare it to table 1. Okay, so here we have, how do we make yes or no questions with this pattern? Okay, so here we have auxiliary, so basically we use is and are. So, are you living at the university? Is he studying psychology? Is she doing an experiment? Are we doing exercise B? Are they working at the moment? And these are yes or no questions, okay? So if I want to give some answers, okay, now he wants us to, how do we make answers? We're going to have to take a guess here, you guys. I'm going to give you a second. Take a guess. Are you living at the university? Answer me right now. That's correct. We can use yes, I am, or no, I'm not. So these are called yes or no questions. Is he studying psychology? Yes, he is. Or no, he isn't, or he's not. Both are correct. Are they working at the moment? Yes, they are. Or no, they're not. Okay? That's how yes or no questions are answered. Now, let's hop into exercise G. Look at table 3 and compare it to table 2. Okay? So let me actually open this, see if I can. Right here. Okay? So here we have, again, yes, this is actually the table number 2. Now let's check table number 3. Okay, so now this is not a yes or no question anymore. This is a question that starts with a question word. So what, how, where. You guys know the question words. So now we can say what are, and for the subject we can say what are you reading. Now, do you think I can answer these questions with a yes or no? No, I cannot. Yes, I cannot do that. I'm going to have to give or be a little bit more specific. What are they doing at the moment? What is he, I can say he, studying now? Okay, and whenever I'm answering these questions, always be specific and don't say yes or no. Okay? You cannot use yes or no with these questions. You gotta be specific. What is she, you can use she, working on this week? Alright? Now let's move on. Here we have H using our present simple or present continuous. Okay, so we have two different, we have present simple and present continuous, and we have some examples here. And then we're gonna take a look at these sentences, and then we're gonna answer the questions. So let's actually go to present simple. Children study English at primary school in some countries. Present continuous, on the other hand, the children are studying English at the moment. Children don't learn to read at nursery school in Britain. Present continuous, the children aren't studying French. Present simple, do children study English at primary school in your country? Present continuous, are the children studying English at the moment? What do children study at primary school? Present continuous, what are the children doing? Okay, now let's take a look at the questions. Which tense has the auxiliary is or are? Okay, so let's take a look. Children study English at primary school in some countries, or the children are studying English at the moment. Which one is it, you guys? That's correct. It's the present continuous. So, which tense has the auxiliary is or are? Present continuous. Oh, I wrote it as recent. Present continuous. Okay? Now, number 2, which tense has the auxiliary do in both questions and negatives? Okay, let's take a look. What can we say? Let's take a look at this one right here. Children don't learn to read at nursery school in Britain, as opposed to the children aren't studying French. Okay? I'm going to give you a second. What can you say? Do in questions and negatives. What's the answer, you guys? That's correct. Present simple. Okay? Now, I'm not going to be able to write answers here, so we'll do this orally. Number 3, when do we use the present simple? Okay, this one's a little bit tricky, so read these, give it a pause for a second and read these again, and try to understand what do we use the present simple for? Or not here, sorry. We're going to use the present simple. Okay? What do we use the present simple for, you guys? Now, let me answer that for you. I hope you're able to get some of these right. So we use it for regular events, we use it for facts, and we use it for likes, okay? And now, number 4, what do we use the present continuous for? Now, the exact opposite. What do we use the present continuous for? And we just did this like literally like 3 minutes ago. I'm not even kidding. We answered this exact same question. All right. We use the present continuous for actions at the present time or around the present time. You guys remember that? That's it, you guys. Pretty easy stuff. Now, let's move on to exercise I. Complete each sentence, and we're going to be using the words in the brackets here. So, complete each sentence. Okay. She lives at home, but this week stay friends. We can say she is staying with friends. Okay, we're going to be using the present continuous here. Okay, I think you guys should, be a little bit more familiar now with what the present continuous is exactly. Okay. Now, 2. It says, I have coffee most mornings, but this morning, and between 2 brackets, we just have tea. So I can say, I have coffee most mornings, but this morning, I'm having tea. I'm having tea. Okay? So yeah, but this morning, I'm having tea. Number 3, he doesn't usually read novels, but at the moment, War and Peace. I'm guessing this is a name of a book or something like that, or a novel. So we can say he doesn't usually read novels, so I can say, but at the moment he's reading War and Peace. Okay? He's reading War and Peace. They usually do assignments together, but this time they're doing them alone. Okay? Present continuous as well. So they're doing them alone. Okay, you guys? Now let's move on to the next page. Okay, you guys, so here we have 3 pictures, obviously different ages or different schools for different age groups of people. So we have nursery school, basically for very young kids, primary school, so when you get a little bit older, and finally we have secondary school. Okay? So after looking at the photographs above, let's answer some questions here. So we have, what age do people start and finish each school in your country? So obviously this will be entirely up to you, but for me personally, I think they start at around 4 or 5, at least that's when I started, and they finish school at around 18 or 19 if he's 1 year late. Okay? Number 2, what skills for life do children learn at each school in your country? Write some words under each school. Okay, so I'd probably say skills for life are obviously skills that you're going to be using throughout your whole life, not just in school, like most subjects. So nursery school, we'll probably say to share toys, and no, we'll say human interaction, because this is when kids really get to know other people and start basically having their own personality. So human interaction here, and then we have primary school. We can say, oh, he already has read, so we can say to write, because obviously you guys know writing is so important. You can't not know how to read and write in today's age. So to write. And finally, in secondary school, to use the internet, we could also say to learn time management. So we can say time management. We can also say one more. We can probably say something along the lines of taking responsibility. And this goes hand in hand with, for example, punctuality. No, always being on time, because a lot of people seem to misdevelop that skill. And it's not really a skill, it's more of a personality trait or something like that, because a lot of people don't have that nowadays, which is sad. So responsibility, obviously that's a skill. And what's more of an important skill is time management. That is an insane skill that if you can get down, you have such an unfair advantage in life. Alright, anyways, number 3, which subjects are compulsory at secondary school in your country? In other words, which subjects do all children study? Okay, so which subjects are compulsory? Compulsory meaning that you have to take the subjects. You have no say whether you get to choose them or not. So at secondary school, I'll probably have to say, obviously, all science subjects are a must. Mathematics, IT, and English. These are just off the top of my head are the most important subjects in my school, at least. So yeah. Now let's look out. Actually, before we do that, let's hop into the skills check. Adding extra information. You can sometimes put words or phrases in 2 or 3 different orders. You guys remember we just did this in the previous in the page before that. So we have examples. Children learn to read words at 6 in Britain. Or we could use different patterns. You guys remember this? In Britain, children learn to read words at 6. Okay, so different styles, different patterns, same answer basically. Excuse me. Students at secondary school in Britain learn to use the internet. Or I could also say, students in Britain learn to use the internet at secondary school. So what he wants to tell you here is that the basic pattern does not change. So you have your subject, verb, and object. However, what does change are the words and phrases. And it can sometimes be in front or between, basically the parts of the different patterns. So now let's add we can add extra information in different places to make our sentences a bit more interesting. So let's actually hop to the exercise here, exercise B. Look at the gray boxes and the green boxes. So we have learn, children, to read, and finally words. Okay. And then we have at 6 at primary school in Britain. Okay, so let's number the gray boxes first before we hop onto the green ones. So, and then after that, let's add the green boxes, okay? So we can say children, number 1, learn to read words, okay? Basic gray boxes, simple stuff. Children learn to read words. Now let's try adding the green boxes. Children learn to read at 6 in Britain, or at primary school in Britain. So you guys see different possible patterns. You play around with these. You can pause the video and play around with this exercise until you kind of get the hang of it. It's just like playing a video game. You kind of know, you should know how to be able to basically change the position of words but still make it interesting and sensible to others. You know what I mean? So we can also say, in Britain, children learn to read at 6 in school. Okay? In Britain, children learn to read at primary school. Okay? What can we say? That's about it, basically. We can also say, in Britain, children at 6 learn to read words. You guys get the idea? So different patterns, play with it and find what you like. Okay? Here we have write about things you have learned. So you personally, obviously, so this is going to be entirely up to you. And add the extra words in different places. Okay, so here he gave us 2 examples, and we're going to do based on these 2 examples. Just know that there are more possible patterns. You just got to look. So I learned to read stories at 7. I can also say, at 7, I learned to read stories. Okay? At 17, I learned to drive a car. I could also say, I learned to drive a car at 17. Okay? Now let's move on here. Or actually, before I do that, let me give you guys one more example. I think this will be good. Let's say personally, I can say I learned to pay my taxes at 18. Okay? I could also say at 18 I learned to pay my taxes. Okay, guys? Using possible different patterns like so. Now let's move on here. Can I open this? Yes, I can. Exercise D. Alright, so here we have read the sentences and circle the correct word or phrase in each case. So here we have, how many are these? 8 sentences, and we gotta choose the correct word or phrase. So are you, this is obviously a yes or no question. Are you working at the moment? Obviously present continuous. Are you working at the moment? 2. What you are doing in IT this term, or what are you? This is a normal question with a question word. What are you doing in IT this term? In your country, do children study a foreign language at primary school, or in your country, are children studying a foreign language at primary school? That's correct. In your country, do children study a foreign language at primary school? Okay. So here we have, what else do we have? Exercise 4. When children learn to read in Mexico? No. When do children read in Mexico? Or when do children learn to read in Mexico? Okay? Then we have number 5. I like English because is useful in your life, or it is useful in your life. Okay? Making a statement. So I like English because it's useful in your life. Number 6. Last week we learned to draw graphs. To draw graphs. We don't say we learned drawing graphs. Number 7. We learned of flowcharts yesterday. You guys remember about and to, right? So when you learn about something, use about. So we learned about flowcharts yesterday. IT is not a subject compulsory or a compulsory subject at secondary school in Germany. Obviously, that'll be number 2, a compulsory subject at secondary school in Germany. Okay, you guys? Now, let's move on. Okay, exercise E, read about Australia, and complete the Australia column of table 1 with the correct information. Okay, so it looks like we're going to be reading a text here about Australia. Okay, so education in Australia. In Australia, children start nursery school at 3. They stay for 2 years. At 5, they go on to primary school. Primary school lasts 7 or 8 years. At 12 or 13, they start secondary school. They finish secondary school at 18. At secondary school, there are 6 compulsory subjects. All students study English, IT, mathematics, science, and physical education. They also study a foreign language. They can choose Japanese, French, German, or Chinese. Religious studies is not a compulsory subject. Australian students learn knowledge and skills at school. They learn important facts about Australia, Oceania, and the world. They also learn skills for life. For example, they learn to work with other people. Alright? So now, let's read the notes about Germany. And we're going to be reading the notes about Australia as well. And actually, we're gonna have to write these. But since I can't write them, can't press any of these, you guys are gonna have to listen to them from me orally. And obviously, before you do that, please pause the video and try to do your own notes. Okay? So here we have stages. Nursery. Okay, so in Germany, it's from 3 to 6. Here we have it from 3 to 5. Okay, so nursery school is from 3 to 5. And then we have primary school in Australia from 5 to around 12 or 13. So let's just write it to 13. So 5 to 13. Okay? And then we have secondary school. Secondary school starts from 13 to 18. Okay? as in compared to Germany, 3 to 6, 6 to 10, and 10 to 19. Okay, subjects at secondary school. Okay, so we have, what do we have? We have English, IT, mathematics, science, physical education, okay, and a foreign language. So that can be up to you. And we also have religious studies, but they're not compulsory. Knowledge. As in knowledge, we probably, well, for Australia, they learn important facts about Australia, Oceania, and the world. As in compared to Germany, important facts about Germany, the EU, and the rest of the world. Okay? And skills for life in Germany are they're probably evaluating information. And in Australia, valuable skills can be they learn to work with other people. Okay, guys? So that was it. You can always make notes about your own country and write 3 different paragraphs based on them. I'd advise you to do that as well. And based on these notes, you can make your own sentences. Any 3 sentences or paragraphs will do. Okay, you guys? Simple one. I'll see you in the next unit. Peace out.